So folks, here are some key words that I work with my students around place consciousness. I would even call these my word bank, my word wall. And I do something at the beginning of a unit around try to just put these words in the sentences, and they don't know some of them and some of them they know, but we just start by saying, what do we know, what can we do, how might you use them? And then throughout the unit we come back as we're learning them and using them and trying them in different ways and showing how much more we know. So these are our key words, people in the house. And if we had 45 minutes, which we don't, I'd say work with a partner to create a sentence using these words. But instead, I'm just sharing them with you as a way. And you can see my green words are very specific words, aren't they? They require a lot of teaching and exploration, but I'm going to open up the door, my friends, to thinking about a few of them. But this is the language of place consciousness. Now there's our friend David Greenwood again, who says, if we just took up one practice of place, just one of these things, one of these green things, if we just took up one of those things, think about the difference it would make in the community. Learning with the community, thinking about what we could do as a community, and taking care of our place in a new way. Now, David Greenwood / Grunwald suggests these four questions are our questions to take up with our place. And they really come back to Freire's idea of not just reading the word, but our students need to learn how to read the world. We want to help our kids be in the world and understand the world as citizens right from the first day of middle years learning. And so these are the, remember how Oren talked about going to a place and being immersed in a place and then over time building a relationship. And so we say as a group, what needs to be transformed here as we learn about that place? What needs to be protected here as we learn about this place? What needs to be restored here as we learn about this place? And what needs to be created here? And when we do that work, looking from multiple perspectives, saying what could be, what needs to be, it helps us think about, it both empowers our middle years learners to feel like they can make a difference, but it also helps us be engaged with the space. And last year's webinar series, in the very first session, if you go back and watch it, Vicki talked about upstanders. It really connects to this notion of helping our kids have some agency and be connected to their place to make a difference. There we go. Woo! Now, David Sobel says, if we want children to flourish, to become truly empowered, let us allow them to love the earth before we ask them to save it. And so when we're thinking about first steps, it's not get a change project going. It's about build a relationship with your place. And as you learn to love your place and learn more about it and learn about its history and how it's connected, from there, we can grow to ask those questions. What needs to be restored here? What needs to be taken care of here? But you have to learn the place before you can move to some kind of solution-based stats. And so with that, my friends, I think I have set up my colleague Mia Mutre, who also may have received a recent message saying, Mia, would you be willing to share your work? Mia, to you, my friend.
Okay, thank you, Leighton. I'm here and I'm going to share my screen. And with me today, I have my colleague, Mercedes Ducharme. And I'm trying to share my screen and I feel like I don't get what I want up on the screen. Sorry about this. I get something blank up and I don't know what I'm supposed to do here.
I can share it for you, Mia.
Can you?
Yeah.
Thank you. That would be
I'm
so
just
awesome.
open back up while you introduce.
Okay, so I can maybe start then, Leighton, while you do that?
Perfect.
Okay. Yeah, so Mercedes and I will take turns. So anyhow, we are really grateful and privileged to share our learning from the unceded territory of Sycus First Nation. And we will also share an acknowledgement by our grade 8, one of our grade 8 learners that they wrote. And they say, I acknowledge that I love work and play on Psyche's traditional territory. 3 things that I like about the land I live on. I like that there's so much wildlife, the breeze in the morning, and the sun in the sky. I am grateful for the land we live on. So Psyche's territory is located, that's the next slide. Thank you so much, Leighton.
We're a team.
It's located in the larger Ducharme territory, and within it there is the Nechako watershed. Here is where we learn about land and people and place. The Nechako River and its tributaries, the main waterways that sustain and nurture people and land here, is where we are growing and developing. So over to you, Mercedes.
Sure, next slide, please.
It's coming, Mercedes, just not
No
very
worries.
fast. There we go.
Perfect. So one thing that we're really fortunate in School District 91 is that place-conscious learning is embedded in our strategic plan. We feel like this plan honors the land, history, and people in our region, and it specifically calls for engaging personalized and passionate learning. And so it gives us permission to explore this place-conscious learning, or to explore learning through a different lens than maybe traditionally we would. So next slide, please. We also take inspiration, of course, from the First Peoples principles, just like Oren had referenced earlier. The first principle in particular is embedded in everything that we do, but a lot of the work that we're doing is also based on memory, story, and our identity in this place. So I think, Mia, your turn.
Yeah, thank you, Mercedes. Awesome. What a team. I love this. So next slide. If you take a look at the picture, what do you notice? What kind of learning is happening here? You know, in the past, we may have been thinking, oh, field trip, an off moment, nothing is happening. They're having a break. Now, it's a field study, deep transformational learning through reflection. So our work starts off in the school year. We're trying to find ways to connecting to land and going to different places to have some shared experiences that we can then join together around when we come back. Next slide, please. So our goal with our place-based learning is to create a sense of self here, to connect to what was here before us and what is yet to become. So looking beyond ourselves. And next slide is just a reminder that interconnection and having a supporting network is equally important for the adults that are involved in this kind of learning and pedagogy, so that we can also fully understand the meaning it has in our lives and the impact it has on us. Next slide, please. So how do we unfold the layers of place and dig deeper? Well, we unpack learning, and it happens best when we slow down, of course, and we get to actually be in authentic settings, usually outside of the classroom, and not just talking about it within the 4 walls. And giving learners opportunities to reflect and explore through various activities. And this year we've played with nature journaling and continue our work around stream keeping and assessing stream health, as water is so important for overall health in our watersheds and territories. Next slide.
So while we go outside frequently, we're often inside the classroom trying to do this kind of work as well. So really our task as educators is trying to find ways to connect learners to nature while we're indoors inside our classrooms. I think we try to respond to learners' needs by really encouraging various ways to process and to show their learning. And so here on this slide is an example of that. Learners here are building dioramas based on inferences they made about a novel that we read together in class. So learners gathered materials from the wetlands across the street from our school and used these things that nature had sort of discarded to bring nature indoors. And so different smells, textures, and feelings are good reminders of place and support that connection to where we live, even when we are inside. Next slide. Thanks.
So this winter, we made a commitment in our grade 8 class to continue going outside, because that was one thing we just didn't do in the past, because where we live, it's really cold. Sometimes in December, January, February. And it's inconvenient because grade 8s, they do not like jackets and they do not like winter boots. So anyways, we decided as a class, we're going to have winter Wednesdays and just hold each other accountable. And Deb Cohen has been a really helpful partner here. And she's also designed some really fun, engaging activities for us that also deepened connections to place. So we had already in the fall adopted a tree in the wetland that we just kept returning to and going back to study, observe, and note the changes. And then Deb added another activity, which we think is quite fun, because here you have to work in pairs. You have to identify, like explain your tree to your partner, and then the partner gets to blindfold you and show you different trees that you have to touch, and then you have to try to, tell which tree is yours. So this was a good activity full of laughter, and it also helped us identify details in nature. Next slide, please.
So Mia's learners have been engaged in Winter Wednesday, but as Deb can attest, the learners in my crew are even more reluctant to be outside most of the time. When asked about their favorite place, the vast majority said their bedroom. So that was a challenge to overcome and think beyond just this narrow little piece of their home. So Deb came up with this activity, and we wanted to, again, broaden the sense of place and connect to the land. And I really felt like this was a turning point for the learners in my crew. Learners took clay and molded a face for a tree in the wetland. So clay is this natural material that eventually will fall off and return to the earth. And afterwards, when we were debriefing from this, so many felt a sense of enjoyment and wonder. And I think that they started to notice things beyond just this idea that the land is static. They noticed the color of the sky. They were able to reflect on their feelings. And so this was really a turning point. And I think this is like what Leighton was saying earlier about learning to love the earth, building that relationship with place. So this was a really nice activity. And these faces turned into a gallery walk for community members as well. We built them along a trail. And I think it fostered curiosity for those beyond just our school to be more aware of their surroundings, but also to look for and find that joy in nature as well. Next slide.
Yeah. So these examples just show some of our work towards creating some stronger connections to land and place, and eventually lead to a much greater appreciation and perhaps even some change making and action taking, who knows, if needed, right, in place. And learners may view themselves in different ways after this year, and perhaps later in lives, with more interconnected and grounded, with a greater sense of belonging. So hashtag place matters. Thank you so much for listening to us. And again, please share our contact, Leighton. We would love to get in touch and learn more from you too. So thank you so much for having us.
Thank you, Mia and Mercedes. Mercedes, look, we're building a relationship without having met before. Amazing. And I just want to honor
silent bystander.
and I want to honor Mercedes and Mia are joining us from the geographic center of the province, folks. Fort St. James or Vanderhoof?
Vanderhoof.
Vanderhoof. Perfect.
Thank you.
Folks, we're going to send you into a small group just to talk about what might be one next step for you might be. And then we're going to hear from John Harris about land-based pedagogy. So we'll see you in about 4 minutes. What's one next step? So not a long talk. Everybody gets a turn.